The 4th of February 2007, lightning struck near the Super Bowl stage. Producers screamed into headsets to cancel, and Prince responded with 5 words that changed everything. Can you make it rain harder? 12 minutes later, 93 million people understood why some performances can only happen when everything goes wrong. It was the morning of Super Bowl XL at Dolphin Stadium in Miami. The Indianapolis Colts would face the Chicago Bears in front of 75,000 fans and nearly 100 million television viewers worldwide. But the real story wasn't happening on the field. The real story was happening in the sky. Production designer Bruce Rogers opened his hotel curtains at 6 a.m. and saw something that made his blood run cold. It was like a scene from Moby Dick. He'd later say, palm trees bent horizontal in the wind. Rain came down in sheets so thick you couldn't see across the parking lot. Lightning cracked every few seconds, illuminating a sky that looked apocalyptic. This wasn't a passing shower. This was a Miami storm. The kind that doesn't relent. The kind that shuts down cities. And Prince, the most meticulous perfectionist performer in music history, was supposed to play halftime in exactly 9 hours. The stage was already built. A massive cymbal shape, Prince's iconic love symbol, constructed from specially treated tile that had one critical flaw: when wet, it became ice. Dancers in 8-inch heels would have to navigate it. 4 electric guitars would be exposed to rain. Thousands of lights, miles of electrical cable, all of it about to be drenched. Don Mischer, the legendary producer who'd orchestrated dozens of Super Bowl shows, sat in a production truck watching weather radar. Every model showed the same thing. The storm would peak during halftime. At 10 a.m., Mischer made the call, "Get Prince on the phone." Prince was at his hotel running through vocal warm-ups. He'd been preparing for this moment for months. The Super Bowl wasn't just another gig. It was the biggest single-event television audience in America. A chance to remind the world that Prince wasn't just a legend from the 80s. He was still the most electrifying performer alive. His phone rang. Tour manager on the line. "Don Mischer needs to speak with you about the weather." "Put him through." Mischer's voice crackled through the connection, professional but tense. "Prince, I need you to know it is raining. It is raining hard. We have contingencies. We filmed a backup performance yesterday that we can broadcast instead. Nobody in the stadium would see you live, but the television audience would see a perfect dry performance. I need to know. Are you okay with that?" Prince looked out his hotel window at the storm. Lightning flashed. Thunder rattled the glass. Rain hammered the pavement like it was angry. Then Prince smiled. The kind of smile that made his band nervous because it usually meant he was about to do something nobody expected. "Can you make it rain harder?" Silence on the other end. Then, "I am sorry. What?" "The rain. Can you make it rain harder?" Mischer laughed. But it was the laugh of a man who suddenly realized he was dealing with someone operating on a completely different frequency. "Prince, I am serious. This is dangerous. The stage is slick. Your guitars could short out. The dancers are professionals," Prince interrupted. "Don, I've been performing for 30 years. I've played through equipment failures, power outages, riots. A little rain doesn't scare me. This isn't a little rain. Then it is perfect. When does it peak?" "Weather models say right around halftime." "Good. That is when I am playing Purple Rain." By 3 p.m., the production crew was in full crisis mode. The rain hadn't let up. If anything, it was getting worse. Wind gusts were hitting 40 miles per hour. Lightning strikes were close enough to make people flinch. The stage crew had covered everything they could with tarps. But water was everywhere. Puddles formed faster than they could be mopped. Every electrical connection was a potential hazard. Morris Hayes, Prince's keyboardist for over a decade, stood under a tent watching the chaos. "I've never seen a production team this stressed," he told the drummer. "You think Prince is worried?" Morris laughed. "Prince doesn't worry. That is what worries me." At 4:30 p.m., Prince arrived at the stadium. He walked through the rain like it wasn't there, purple suit, already getting soaked, not caring. He went straight to the stage and stood at center, letting rain pour over him. "How is it feel?" Dawn Misher asked, joining him. "Baptismal," Prince said. "That is one word for it." Prince looked at the setup. The love symbol stage glowed with purple neon even in daylight. The Florida A&M marching band was huddled under the stadium overhang, their uniforms adorned with illuminated tape that would look incredible on camera. "The twins here?" Prince asked, referring to his twin backup dancers. "Maya and Nandi are in the trailer." "Prince, they're wearing 8-inch heels on a wet stage. I am worried someone's going to." "They'll be fine. They've danced with me for years. They know how to move." "Not in a monsoon." Prince turned to face Misher. His expression was calm, confident, almost eerily peaceful. "Dawn, do you trust me?" "Of course, but then trust this. Everything that could go wrong is going to go right. I don't know how, but I know it will." The game started at 6:30 p.m. The Colts took an early lead. Peyton Manning was having the game of his life, but for 75,000 people in the stadium and millions watching at home, everyone was waiting for one thing: halftime. Would Prince really perform in this weather? At 7:47 p.m., as the second quarter wound down, word spread through the press box. Prince was going on. No backup tape, no delay, full live performance in the storm. "Is he insane?" one reporter asked. "He is Prince," another replied. "That is the same thing." The teams headed to their locker rooms. The crowd buzzed with anticipation and concern. The rain was relentless. Lightning continued flashing. This was either going to be legendary or catastrophic. Backstage, Prince gathered his band and dancers. They stood in a circle, water dripping off their faces. "I am only going to say this once," Prince said quietly. "What we're about to do is impossible. The stage is slick. The equipment is wet. The weather is dangerous. We should cancel. We should play it safe." Everyone stared at him. "But we're not going to do that. We're going to walk out there and play the best 12 minutes of our lives, not despite the rain, because of it. Because sometimes God hands you a gift you didn't ask for, and your job is to use it." Maya, one of the twins, raised her hand. "Prince, these heels will make you fly." Prince finished. "Just dance like you always dance. The stage will hold you, I promise." Morris Hayes, who'd known Prince longer than anyone in the circle, saw something in his eyes he'd never seen before. Not confidence, not arrogance, something else. Faith. At 7:52 p.m., the lights in Dolphin Stadium went down. 75,000 people roared. 93 million television viewers leaned forward. The big screen showed nothing but darkness. Then, slowly, purple light began to glow from the field. The love symbol stage emerged from the black, neon edges cutting through the rain-soaked night. Fireworks exploded despite the downpour. Lightning effects flashed, but they were competing with real lightning in the sky. Then the opening drums of "We Will Rock You" pounded through the stadium speakers. The crowd stomped along, shaking the stands. The Florida A&M marching band emerged, their illuminated uniforms making them look like glowing spirits in the storm. And then, rising from beneath the stage in a platform, obscured by smoke and rain, wearing a turquoise suit that somehow looked purple under the lights, he grabbed the microphone with his left hand, gestured to the sky with his right, and smiled at the storm like it was an old friend. "Dearly beloved," he said, his voice carrying over the thunder, "we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life." The crowd erupted, and Prince, standing in rain that was now coming down so hard it looked like curtains of water, launched into "Let's Go Crazy." From the first note, everyone backstage knew they were witnessing something special. Prince moved across the slick stage like he was dancing on air. The twins, in their impossible heels, somehow never slipped. They moved with precision, grace, confidence. The rain didn't slow Prince down. It energized him. Every time lightning flashed, he timed it perfectly, throwing his arms wide, making it look choreographed. When thunder boomed, he paused, let it roll across the stadium, then came back even louder. He shifted seamlessly into 1999. Then, Baby I Am a Star. The crowd sang along. Rain forgotten, cold forgotten, everything forgotten, except the music. Then Prince did something nobody expected. He transitioned into cover songs. First Creedence Clearwater Revival's Proud Mary, then, impossibly, the Foo Fighters' Best of You, a song barely 2 years old. Prince was singing a modern rock hit at the Super Bowl in the rain, and making it sound like he wrote it. But everyone knew what was coming. The song everyone was waiting for. At 8:01 p.m., Prince walked to center stage. The marching band went silent. The backing tracks faded. The stadium lights dimmed to almost nothing. And then, from somewhere in the production booth, someone unfurled a massive white screen behind Prince. It caught the wind, billowed like a sail. And when the purple lights hit it, Prince's silhouette appeared, 20 feet tall, holding his cymbal-shaped guitar. He began the opening notes of Purple Rain. The rain intensified the moment Prince began playing Purple Rain, as if the sky had been waiting for permission. It wasn't drizzle anymore, it was a downpour. Sheets of water cascading onto the stage, onto Prince, onto the 75,000 people who didn't move, didn't seek shelter, just stood and watched. Prince's voice cut through the storm. I never meant to cause you any sorrow. The silhouette on the screen behind him moved with every note. His guitar solo, that iconic, soaring Purple Rain solo, became something more than music. It became a dialogue with the storm itself. Lightning flashed on cue. Thunder rolled during the pauses. The rain came down harder, turning the stadium lights into halos of purple mist. It looked supernatural, planned. Like Prince had called down the weather just for this moment. In the production truck, Don Mischer watched the monitors with his hand over his mouth. This is impossible, he whispered. This can't be real. But it was real, and it was perfect. The guitar solo built to its climax. Prince threw his head back, let rain pour over his face, and played notes that seemed to come from somewhere beyond technique. The crowd sang along, 75,000 voices joining Prince in the storm, creating something that transcended performance. This was worship. This was transcendence. This was transcendence. This was Prince turning catastrophe into cathedral. When the final note faded, the stadium stayed silent for 3 full seconds. Then the roar came. Not just applause, but something primal. Recognition of having witnessed something that would never happen again. Fireworks exploded through the rain. Prince stood center stage, arms wide, accepting the storm like a blessing. Then he walked off stage, leaving behind the most iconic 12 minutes in Super Bowl history. Backstage, the crew descended into controlled chaos. Stagehands rushed to disconnect equipment, get it under cover before everything shorted out. Morris Hayes unplugged his keyboard and heard it make a sound like death, an electrical wheeze, then nothing. He tried to turn it back on. Dead. Prince, Morris called out. The keyboards are fried. One by one, they checked the equipment. Every guitar, dead. Every keyboard, dead. The drums, waterlogged, thousands of dollars of equipment, ruined. But it had worked. Every second of the performance, every note, every connection, it had all worked perfectly. And the moment the show ended, the moment they turned the equipment off, it died. It is like Bruce Rogers stared at the equipment in disbelief. It is like it held on just long enough. Prince walked through the backstage area, still soaking wet, smiling. When he saw the destroyed equipment, he laughed. Actually laughed. Autograph it, he said. We'll auction it for charity. Those instruments gave their lives for art. They deserve to be remembered. Don Mischer found Prince by the equipment truck. I need to know something. Did you plan that? The timing with the lightning, the way the rain peaked during Purple Rain. Did you somehow? No, Prince said simply. I just trusted it would work. That is not an answer. Yes, it is. Sometimes you don't control the moment. You surrender to it. The storm wanted to be part of the show. I just made room for it. Within hours, the response was unanimous. Critics who'd been skeptical of Prince's relevance called it the greatest halftime show ever. The New York Times wrote, "Prince didn't just perform in the rain. He conducted it." Social media exploded. The silhouette image, Prince's shadow against the billowing screen, guitar held high during the solo, became instantly iconic. That single image would define Super Bowl halftime shows forever. But for Prince, the validation came from somewhere else. 3 days after the show, a letter arrived at Paisley Park from a woman in Ohio. "I am a pastor. I've been one for 20 years, and I've never felt the presence of something divine as strongly as I did watching you play in that storm. You didn't perform. You channeled. Thank you for reminding me why I believe." Prince kept that letter. Years later, his manager would find it in Prince's personal files, marked with a single note in Prince's handwriting. "This is why." Have you ever witnessed a moment where everything that should have gone wrong went impossibly right? Where chaos became beauty? That is what 93 million people saw that night. Not just a performance, but proof that sometimes surrendering to the moment creates something no amount of planning ever could. Prince never topped that performance. How could he? You can't manufacture that kind of magic twice. The conditions were perfect in their imperfection. The storm, the stage, the timing, the courage to say yes when everyone else said stop. In every Super Bowl halftime show since 2007, producers and performers reference the Prince standard. Can they create that kind of moment? Can they turn limitation into transcendence? None have. Not because they aren't talented, but because they're trying to recreate something that can't be recreated. Prince didn't perform in the rain. He performed with the rain. He made it a partner, not an obstacle. Years later, Morris Hayes reflected on that night, "We could have died up there. The stage was slick. The electricity was exposed. Lightning was hitting close. Every technical person said it was impossible. But Prince understood something the rest of us didn't. Sometimes impossible is just another word for inevitable. It was going to work because it had to work. The universe wasn't going to let it fail." When Prince died in 2016, the tributes flooded in from around the world. But the image everyone kept sharing was the same, that silhouette Prince in the rain. Guitar held high, storm raging around him. Because that image captured everything Prince was: fearless, spiritual, willing to dance with forces others feared, turning catastrophe into art through sheer force of belief. Today, the 2007 Super Bowl halftime show is studied in production schools, not just for the music, but for the lesson it teaches about creation. Sometimes, the best art comes from saying yes to disaster. The NFL has never again allowed a performer to go on stage during a storm like that. Safety protocols were updated. Backup plans were strengthened. The industry learned its lesson. But Prince had learned a different lesson, and he shared it in a rare interview 6 months after the Super Bowl. "People asked me if I was scared that night. I wasn't. I was excited, because for 30 years I'd been controlling every variable, perfecting every moment, making sure nothing went wrong. And you know what that creates? Safe art. Predictable art. That storm gave me permission to let go, to trust something bigger than my control. And in those 12 minutes, I felt more alive than I had in years." He paused, then added, "The rain didn't ruin the show. It completed it. Sometimes God's interruptions are better than our plans. The greatest moments in life rarely happen according to plan. They happen when we're brave enough to say yes to the storm instead of hiding from it." Prince could have played it safe, used the backup tape, waited for better weather, protected the equipment, protected himself, protected his legacy. Instead, he walked into the rain and played like the storm was an orchestra waiting for his direction. And he created something that will never be forgotten. Share this story with someone who is afraid of the chaos in their life right now. Because sometimes, the storm isn't trying to destroy you, it is trying to complete you. The 4th of February, 2007, Miami. Super Bowl XL. The storm came without warning. The kind of storm that shuts down cities, cancels events, sends people running for cover. Lightning cracked, rain hammered, wind howled, and Prince walked into it with a guitar and a smile. Every expert said, stop. Every safety protocol said cancel. Every logical voice said, this is impossible. Prince said, can you make it rain harder? For 12 minutes. 93 million people watched something that shouldn't have been possible. A man dancing on ice in a monsoon. Electricity exposed to water that should have killed it. A guitar solo competing with thunder and winning. But it wasn't just possible. It was perfect. The equipment died the moment the show ended. Every guitar, every keyboard, every connection. They held on just long enough, then gave out like they knew their purpose and fulfilled it. Some would call that luck. Prince called it faith. He didn't perform despite the storm. He performed with it. He made the rain a dancer, the lightning a light show, the thunder a drum section. He turned disaster into the most iconic 12 minutes in Super Bowl history. Because Prince understood something most people don't. Control is an illusion. Safety is an illusion. The only thing that is real is the moment in front of you, and whether you are brave enough to embrace it. The storm that was supposed to ruin everything became the thing that made everything legendary. Prince's silhouette in the rain, guitar held high, storm raging, purple light glowing through the deluge, became the image that defined not just halftime shows, but performance itself. It proved that sometimes the best art happens when you stop trying to control the moment and start trusting it. Can you make it rain harder? 5 words that meant, I am not afraid. I am ready. Bring the chaos. I'll make it music. And he did. In the middle of a storm that should have stopped him, Prince created something eternal, because that is what legends do. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They make the conditions perfect by showing up anyway.